Hello and welcome to my latest career video now. As promised to someone over the weekend, I would do a career video on great bantamweight fighter Charles Bud Taylor, the Blonde Terror of Terre Haute. One of my top 10 all-time bantamweight fighters. Up there in that illuminated company were fighters like Pete Kederman, Joe Lynch, Panama Al Brown, Manuel Ortiz. The bantamweight division has produced so many great fighters, and Charles Bud Taylor is one of them. So let us go through his career, beginning with his major opponents. So Charles Bud Taylor, big shout out to Clash Royale Pro 698. Sorry, I'm tongue-tying myself. Put my teeth back in. I'm joking. So Charles Bud Taylor begins with a fight against top 10 flyweight in my rankings, Frankie Gennaro, suffering a defeat. He then has a trilogy of fights with a fellow top 10 all-time flyweight, Pancho Villa, from the Philippines, scoring one win with 2 losses and no draws. Bud Taylor also defeats former champion Phil Rosenberg and scores 3 wins out of 3 in a trilogy of fights against former bantamweight champion Abe Goldstein. Next up is the great Jimmy McLarnin. Now, Jimmy McLarnin won many trilogies, Billy Patrol amongst others, but one of the few trilogies he didn't win was against Charles Bud Taylor. Bud Taylor won 2 of the trilogy, with Jimmy McLarnin scoring 1 win with no draws. So winning a trilogy against Jimmy McLarnin, not too shabby. Also next up, is a fighter who should be in the hall, the great bantamweight fighter Bushy Graham. Bud Taylor fought him on 2 occasions, scoring 1 win, 1 loss and no draw. And already, as if that isn't enough to highlight what kind of resume he has another trilogy, this time against one of my all-time top 10 fighters, the great Tony Canzoneri, the 5-time 3-weight undisputed. Bud Taylor, scored 1 win with 1 loss and 1 draw against Canzoneri. Now, Canzoneri defeated Bud Taylor at the end of the trilogy. One of the fights was a draw, but the fight that Bud Taylor won, he showed his aggression, his experience to grind away at Tony Canzoneri. And at that time, Canzoneri couldn't deal with it, couldn't deal with the consistent applied pressure and experience that Bud Taylor put on him. So splitting a trilogy with Canzoneri is also a great thing there. Next up, former champion Al Singer. Bud Taylor fought him twice, losing twice. And next up is another Hall of Famer, the excellent Battling Battolino. Bud Taylor fought him on 2 occasions, scoring 1 win, 1 loss and no draws. Next up, the third top 10 flyweight of all time in my rankings that Bud Taylor fought is Fidel Lababa. Bud Taylor fought him on 2 occasions, suffering 2 defeats. He also fought and lost to the excellent featherweight and super featherweight puncher Benny Bass in a singular fight, before then having 5-fight series with another Hall of Famer I've covered over the last few months, I believe, Memphis Palmore, the latest Hall of Famer on Bud Taylor's resume now. Taylor scored 1 win with 2 losses and 2 draws against the very capable Memphis Palmore. He then scored singular wins over 2 excellent contenders and former pound-for-pound rated fighters. The first is Eddie Shea. He also gained win over the very capable Chick Suggs. And to close out this mammoth first slide of names for Charles Bud Taylor is a 5-fight series with contender and briefly rated pound-for-pounder of the late 1920s in my all-time rankings, Santiago Zorrilla. Now, Bud Taylor scored 3 wins with 1 loss and 1 draw from that 5-fight series. So already on there, you've got a win over one of the top 10 flyweights of all time, wins over bantamweight champions Phil Rosenberg and Goldstein. You've got a winning trilogy against Jimmy McLarnin, a split 2 fights with Bushy Graham, a split trilogy with top 10 all-time fighter Tony Canzoneri. He's got 2 defeats to another top 10 flyweight. You add in the other fights to Hall of Famers and champions like Singer, Bass, Memphis Palmore. That is a really, really tough slide, and Bud Taylor has scored many good wins on there, beating many of those fighters he faced. So, we are not finished yet, on slide 2. And all of these fighters on here are rated, were rated in their careers. So first up is another trilogy, this time against the capable Earl Mastro. Now Bud Taylor lost 2 of those with 1 draw. He then fought contender, top 10 contender Harold Smith on 4 occasions, scoring 2 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. And Bud Taylor beat top 10 rated Johnny Brown twice from 2 fights. He then lost a singular fight to excellent contender Rosie Stoy, before then fighting another trilogy that he wins again. He wins a lot of his trilogies, Bud Taylor. This time, against excellent contender Pete Sarmiento. Bud Taylor fought him 3 times and beat him all 3 times. He then lost to another really tough contender of his time, Carl Tremaine, in a singular fight, before having a 4-fight series against former rated contender Joey Sangor, who will be covered in an upcoming video, and his resume is really tough. Now Bud Taylor scored 1 win and suffered 3 defeats. He then fought a draw to rated Chuck Hellman, before then scoring 2 wins from 2 against top 10 rated young national lister. Next up are 3 individual singular wins. The first is over top 10 rated Dixila Hood. He then beat top 10 rated Johnny Farr and also beat top 10 rated Ignacio Fernandez, before fighting and losing in a singular fight to rated contender Vic Foley. He then defeated former top 10 contender Johnny Vaca, again in a singular fight, before losing his final fight on here against former top 10 rated Andy Martin. So there is slide 2, full of contenders. Again, Bud Taylor has beaten an awful lot of them and scored many wins on there. And one thing that Bud Taylor, whether it's the trilogy against Pancho Villa, he lost that 1 win, 2 loss. He won the trilogy, against Goldstein, winning all 3 fights. He won the trilogy against Jimmy McLarnin, scoring 2 wins, 1 loss. He drew the trilogy with the great Tony Canzoneri. And when you actually look at his career, he then won the trilogy against tough contender Pete Sarmiento, etc, etc. He's had a lot of trilogies and actually won a lot of them. So going on to the final slide of Bud Taylor's main opponents, he fights and loses in singular fights to Maurice Holzer and contender Lou Massey, before then fighting a draw to the experienced and capable Frankie Mason. Next up is Solly Epstein. Bud Taylor fights him twice and beats him twice. He then also gains singular wins over battling Al Murray and contender Frankie Jerome. Next up, Eddie O'Dowd. Bud Taylor didn't defeat him in their 2 fights, suffering defeats in both instances. And then for his final main opponents on here, they're all wins with no defeats. The first is over Georgie Rivers. He then gains a singular win over Dynamite Joe Murphy, before then gaining 2 wins over Doc Snell. Next up, singular wins against Vic Barone, Babe Ruth, Phil Zwick and Johnny Kaiser. So, there are 79 fights highlighted there. 79 fights. That is more fights by far than even, say, Terence Crawford's had in his career. Now, people would say Crawford is unbeaten. Yes, for granted. But Crawford hasn't had multiple trilogies against top 50 all-time greats. Something, sadly, Charles Bud Taylor has. Bud Taylor scored 42 wins with 29 losses and 8 draws. So, going on to his stats, Bud Taylor scored 37 knockouts in his career. He scored 22 knockouts in 3 rounds or less and 6 in the first round. He scored 0 KOs against champions, Hall of Famers. He did score 1 KO against Pound for Pounder, and with his fairly partial ratings, he's still partial on his ratings but scores some decent numbers in some areas. He scored 4 KOs against rated fighters. Now, in terms of rounds boxed, he fought well over 1,000 career rounds with a total of 1,355. Bud Taylor only fought 20 title fight rounds, but he then also fought totals of 214 rounds against champions, 184 rounds against Hall of Famers, and 240 rounds against Pound for Pounders. I mean, to put it simply, that's equivalent of 20 12-round distance fights against Pound for Pounders. Quite a tally. Now, against rated opponents, Bud Taylor fought 541 rounds against top 10 fighters. He fought a total of 359 rounds against top 3 fighters, and he fought 118 rounds against ring champions. So with Bud Taylor going on to the slide against champions, he had a total of 23 fights against against champions with a record of 10 wins, 12 losses and 1 draw. Bud Taylor defeated 7 individual champions. They were Pancho Villa, Charlie Phil Rosenberg, Abe Goldstein, Jimmy McLarnin, Bushy Graham, Tony Canzoneri and Battling Bartolino. Some outstanding great names and some top 10 rated fighters across various divisions there rated also. He did not score any knockouts or stoppages over those 7 champions he defeated, so champions knocked out individually is 0. Shout out to Drunk Irishman in the chat. So, going on, okay, to Hall of Famers. Now, Bud Taylor had 20 fights against Hall of Famers with a record of 6 win, 11 loss and 3 draw. And he defeated 5 Hall of Fame fighters, all of them outstanding names. Memphis Palmore, Pancho Villa, Jimmy McLarnin, Tony Canzoneri and Battling Bartolino. And if Bushy Graham finally, as he should do, gets in the Hall, Bud Taylor will have a 6th, etc. And there may be other fighters who join the Hall as well over time. But there's some major names there. He has not scored a knockout or stoppage over any of those Hall of Famers, hence by the KO stats. So going on to the pound for pound slide, Bud Taylor had 26 fights against pound for pounders with a record of 11 wins, 12 losses and 3 draws. And he defeated 8 individual pound for pound fighters. They were Pancho Villa, Jimmy McLarnin, Bushy Graham, Eddie Shea, Tony Canzoneri, Chick Suggs, Santiago Zarilla and Battling Bartolino. And he scored a knockout or stoppage over one of those pound for pounders. That was Chick Suggs. So going on to rated opponents, okay, now Bud Taylor does have mainly almost a full record for rated opponents, okay. He had 59 fights against top 10 fighters with a record of 29 wins, 25 loss, 5 draw. He had 38 fights against top 3 rated fighters, including 17 wins, 18 loss and 3 draw. And he had 13 fights against ring champions, including 6 win, 6 loss, 1 draw. Bud Taylor defeated in total 19 individual rated fighters, and he scored knockouts over 4 of those 19 rated fighters he defeated individually. So going on to title fight numbers, Bud Taylor had 2 world title fights, fighting a win and a draw. He only had 2 title fights, didn't lose either of them. He made 0 title defences and scored 0 title fight KOs. Against rated opponents, he scored 1 win against a top 10 fighter, 1 win against a top 3 fighter, and 1 win against a ring champion in title fights. And Bud Taylor scored 1 win against a champion, 1 win against a Hall of Famer, and 1 win against a pound for pounder in title fights. So not the largest title fight record, you know, when you see other fighters, Pete Kaderman, Panama Al Brown, and of course the massive title fight record of my number 1 bantamweight of all time, the great Manuel Ortiz. You know, he had well over 20 undisputed title fights and was a multi-year lineal champion at bantamweight. Most people who talk about great bantamweights, you know, they'll mention Panama Al Brown, they'll mention Pete Kaderman. A lot of them don't even ever mention Manuel Ortiz, what I find quite shocking. A multi-year, over 20 undisputed bantamweight title fights, incredible. Big shout out to Martin in the chat, good to see you, buddy. I have a little announcement at the end of this video anyway, so let us go on to our final slide, titles 1. Charles Bud Taylor in his career held the NBA bantamweight title. He was never regarded as lineal bantamweight champion, nor was he undisputed bantamweight champion. So there ends video on one of my top 10 all-time bantamweights, okay. He's in great company, like I said, alluded to at the start, with Pete Kaderman and Lynch and Panama Al Brown and the great Ortiz and all the other great bantamweight fighters. Charles Bud Taylor is in honoured company. I've always said the bantamweight people, many people make out the bantamweights and flyweights, and I think the flyweights, you know, when you look at my top 10 with Jimmy Wilde and Wolgast and La Barber and Gennaro and Villa, you know, all these fantastically great flyweight fighters, it's the same with the bantamweights. The divisions at bantam and fly may not have the depth of a welterweight, middleweight or heavyweight or light heavyweight even, or lightweight, but they do have outstanding great fighters in them, and Charles Bud Taylor is one of them when it comes to bantamweight. So I'm very happy. I'm always very happy and privileged to talk about some of these great fighters on my career videos. So the announcement I have to make before I get off, okay, is on my last channel I was doing something called Fantasy Fights. Now I'm bringing that back, okay, but this is for the long term. So what I'm going to do is, okay, I'm going to begin at heavyweight, okay. Now these reviews are not going to be videos, they're going to be scripted on my community posts. So every now and then I will update. Okay, community posts will come with a nice colourful header I've designed, the results of all the fights. Now the point is with the fantasy fights initially is fighters will fight and fight and fight until two fighters hit a certain point target. As well as the results of the fantasy fights on my community page, I will also produce an ongoing top 20 fighters. Okay, so I'll do the results, post the top 20. As soon as two fighters hit a certain point target, those two fighters will contest for the world heavyweight title. So then after that, on the community post will be the results of the intermediate fights, and then a round by round text of each world heavyweight title fight between the champion and whomever he is fighting. So that's going to be coming. I wanted something to put on my community page. Once the heavyweights are set up and running, I will then add cruiserweight. As that gets set up, I will then add light heavyweight, and I will go down all the way to minimum weight. Okay, and then when all 17 divisions are up, what I'll do on the community post, this is going to be long term, it's going to be a permanent thing. I'm not going to do it for a few months and then they just stop coming. It's going to be a permanent thing. I'll expand from heavyweights to all other divisions over time, and then what I'll do is I'll do a featured cards from each weight division. So one community post will say Fantasy Heavyweight League card 9. Each post will be titled card. So the first one will be card 1, the second one will be card 2, as in fight card. Okay, so that's what I'll do. When cruiserweight comes, I'll do cruiserweight card 1, cruiserweight card 2, light heavyweight card 1, 2, 3, 4, middleweight card 1, 2, if you get me. And then intermediately, I will put cards up. Now I can monitor from the card numbers I've done on each division, obviously to try and keep them level, so 2 or 3 divisions don't have 50 and then 13 other divisions only have 15. Okay, so I'm gonna once all the 17 divisions are incorporated into that, I'll try and level them up and then produce regular cards on each one. So that is coming to my community page. So I've got career videos on here, stat matchups on here, the fantasy leagues coming on my community page, plus other content going forward. So yeah, I'm pleased to make that announcement. I'm going through first results now. Some fights I'll put the results, others to add a bit of flavour in, I'll just give a brief description of what happened in the fight as well. But when we do get a champion in each division, you will get a round by round breakdown of that world title fight, and then it's down to the fighters. These fights cover all fighters from 1890 to now. Okay, all intermingled, intermixed. So I did a test fight between Tommy Hearns and Jose Napoles. I did another one between Vladimir Klitschko and Jack Johnson. I'm not going to tell you what happened in them, but yeah, those results will come. So that's something special I'm starting on my community page, and it will be a long-term ongoing thing. So anyway, I will leave it there, people. Big shout out to everyone in the chat. There is the great Charles Bud Taylor, an outstandingly great bantamweight fighter. Many more videos coming soon, including a video on that very relative unknown fighter Joey Sangor. In fact, I may do that video tomorrow. That's an eye-opener, not as in he accomplished all these great things, but the toughness of his resume for his career size. When you see his career video, you'll think, wow, this guy fought all kinds of people. And you'll be in for a shock. Obviously, he defeated Bud Taylor, so yeah, you'll get to know Joey Sangor's resume tomorrow. A name that people see on resumes, don't really know too much about. Those are some of the fighters I love talking about, flashing up their names for the first time. I had an idiot who came to me the other day and left a post, and I just fired off at him and then blocked him, hid him from my channel. He said, under one of my videos, can't remember which video it was, he said, "Oh, great fighter, but I was wondering, why do you also do videos on fighters that aren't that good?" So I did politely kind of tell him, well, because I want to. And then I also told him, well, who decides they're not good? You? All of them are better than you. Yeah, so, even now after all these years, I still get these occasional idiots show up. But, as I've shown on my last channel and on this one, my channel is a serious boxing channel. Okay, so if you come and, you're contesting, was Shavers as big a puncher as people think? and contesting it and challenging that's fair enough. If you come and think, was Jack Johnson as defensively minded as people make out, and put evidence up there that he may or may not have been, that again is allowed, because that's boxing debate, that's discussion, that's, But just coming and making out loads of fighters are not good. It's not boxing discussion, it's more trolling. And I don't allow trolling, racism, name-calling, or instigating on my channel. For those things, you are instantly blocked. I want my channel always to be where anyone can talk boxing or debate. On my old channel, I did have some occasions where people were debating, it got a bit heated. And, I'd be watching the debate if I saw it, and then sometimes I'd just have to put a comment in there saying, hey guys, knock it off now, you're just going a bit too far, let's keep it civil. Sometimes I did have to leave those comments. If they didn't listen, they were removed from my channel, but I always gave them a chance. I always said, look, yeah, you're debating, but it's getting a bit too much now. When they started saying, oh, you stupid and all, when they start adding that into the debate rather than factual points, that's when I used to step in and say, whoa, hold it off now, you're just going a bit too far. But when I were doing my live streams on StreamYard, any idiot showed up, they were blocked, and other than that, people could chat in my live stream free of that kind of what's he called? Oh, that horrific YouTuber. Oh, Nerdrotic. Oh my god. Yeah, free of that kind of nasty negativity. So I've always kind of kept my channel free of that. So anyway, I'm going to get off. I have things to do. I have more heavyweight results to get ready, okay, for my first post that will come hopefully later today, if not tomorrow. Also working on some other videos, so I will catch everyone later. Much more content coming, including those fantasy leagues on my community post. I'm excited to do them. So I'm Boxing Librarian, and I'm out for now.